If your house is in a revocable trust and you move and rent that house, does the trust provide similar protection as an LLC? This is an excellent question. And really what needs to be focused on here is the word revocable. So we're asking if a revocable trust provides similar asset protection as an LLC. So there's different types of trust. The two basic headings of trust are going to be your revocable trust and your irrevocable trust. The revocable trust, its main purpose is probate avoidance. That's a really good purpose in and of itself. Probate is expensive, way more expensive than setting up a trust typically. It is time consuming and it can be very stressful. The last thing you want is to have your beneficiary need to go through probate before they can get whatever you intended them to have. So you can save a lot of money for your beneficiaries, a lot of time because it can take up to a year, sometimes longer, and a lot of stress by having your assets either owned by a revocable trust or listing a revocable trust as the beneficiary or POD, TOD to these assets. But let's look at the structure of a revocable trust. So you are going to be the creator of this trust. We call you the settler or the grantor. You're the person who's putting assets into the trust. You are also typically the manager of those assets or in control of them. That's the trustee of the trust. This is what's very important. So you put the assets in, you maintain control of the assets, and you're also typically an initial beneficiary of the assets. Because of this, legally, there's really no ownership change. You, for all intents and purposes, remain the owner of the assets. You remain in control of them, so nothing is really changing ownership-wise with a revocable trust. Because of that, you're not going to get any added asset protection. It's not like when you set up an LLC and you transfer things to this special entity, right? That the entity itself makes it so that you don't become personally responsible for debts or obligations of that entity. That's different than what you do when you transfer assets to a revocable trust, because it really isn't an entity separate from yourself. It's more just an extension of yourself. And the reason we set that up, again, is probate avoidance. So we're just setting up a vehicle to have your assets come under so that they don't have to go through the probate court before they transfer to your beneficiaries. Because of the fact that you may remain in control, can move things in and out, you don't need anyone's permission. You can sell things, you can add new things. Nobody else needs to sign off on that. Because of all of that, you're not really setting up a structure that is designed for asset protection. That would be more the job of an irrevocable trust, but there's always a trade-off. So by putting assets in an irrevocable trust, you are most likely not going to be the trustee anymore, meaning you're not the one in the driver's seat, you're not in control, and you're not going to have that same ability to just move things in and out of the trust without having special permission, or even sometimes needing to go into court for permission for that. You basically give up your control and your ownership of the assets, because under an irrevocable trust, you are no longer considered the legal owner. You're giving up those rights in exchange for asset protection. So in this instance, if you are living in a property, say it's your primary residence, it's in your revocable trust, you move out of that property into a new property and you want to start renting it, it might be a good idea to consult with an attorney about the different options you have in order to protect yourself from liability that's often associated with a rental, which very well could be transferring it to an LLC. At that point in time, you can even have the revocable trust listed as the owner or one of the owners of that LLC. Again, I talked about this in another video, but multi-member LLCs in a lot of states have more legal protection than single-member LLCs. They do require an extra tax return. So these are all things that have to be carefully discussed with an attorney and often a tax professional before you make your decision. But there are ways to fix this. So if you did want to move out of that property and use it as a rental, you absolutely can set up things to make it so that that asset is separate from your other assets. So it's not a big personal liability to you. And that stuff you're going to want to discuss with the proper legal counsel and probably also a tax advisor. So I hope this answers the question. If you have any other questions about revocable trust, LLCs, estate planning, or probate in general, you can contact our office. We're in Clearwater, Florida. So call us if you're in Florida, and the link is in my bio.